What would you do if your family erased you and the world reminded them exactly who you are? My name is Elena Drew, and for most of my life, I was the family's dirty secret hidden behind half-truths, whispered about in church pews, and politely excluded from holiday photos. I was the crack in the Drew Foundation, the one mistake they couldn't fix, the Navy dropout, the girl who came home with bruises she never explained and silence she never broke. They called me a disgrace, but they never once asked why. So when the morning of my brother Tyler's high school graduation came around, I wasn't on the guest list, but I came anyway. Millstone, Oregon looked like it always had, like a Norman Rockwell painting hiding a rotten core. I sat high in the metal bleachers tucked beneath a windbreaker from a life nobody wanted to talk about. My Navy windbreaker, the one they all pretended didn't exist. Down on the field, Mom beamed in the front row, bouquet in hand, her eyes gleaming with pride for her golden boy. Tyler, the straight-A star Caltech, bound the son who'd never made her cry in public. When they called his name, the crowd stood, clapped, cheered like he'd walked on water. I stayed seated. Then it happened. A low hum, deep and guttural, started to shake the air around us. Heads turned. The sound grew louder, a roar that rumbled through the clouds. And then cutting across the sky like a blade came a black military helicopter. Gasps echoed through the bleachers as the aircraft hovered above the football field. Flags snapped violently in the rotor wash. I saw the superintendent shielding his face, the valedictorian's cap, fly off. But I didn't move. The chopper hovered for a breathless second, then dropped a single rope. A man in black tactical gear rappelled down with surgical precision, landing in a crouch on the 50-yard line, sunglasses gleaming, boots planted, the kind of presence that made people sit up and shut up. He walked with intent straight across the turf, through the stunned crowd, all the way up the bleachers. He stopped in front of me. "Elena Drew," he said, his voice sharp enough to slice through every murmur. "Commander, it's time." Time froze. My mother's mouth fell open, the bouquet slipping an inch from her grip. Tyler stood still on the stage, blinking like he'd never seen me before. I stood. I didn't say a word. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't apologize or explain. I didn't owe them that anymore. I walked down the bleachers' boots, heavy coat flapping, and stepped into the chopper like I'd never left it. Up in the air above, the gasps and the silence and the judgments, I finally breathed. And as the town of Millstone shrank beneath me, I wasn't the disgrace anymore. I was Commander Elena Drew, and I was just getting started. Next, a town that never forgave, and the truth I buried under silence. Some places don't just remember your past, they make sure you never forget it. Millstone was the kind of town where the streets never changed and the people never forgot. When I came back 10 years ago, discharged, disgraced, and dead silent, I didn't get a homecoming. I got a gravel driveway, a padlock on the fridge, and a cold warning from my mother. "You can stay in the garage, but don't bring shame through my front door." And I didn't. I never told her what happened. Not about the bunkmate cornered in the showers, not about the man I broke to protect her. I didn't tell her how command called it insubordination, sealed the charges, and made me disappear without a ripple. I just nodded and moved into the service bay above Miller's Auto, where the smell of rusted metal and sweat replaced any sense of belonging. That's where I lived, rebuilt carburetors by day, rebuilt myself by night. But Millstone wasn't the kind of town that let you start over. People whispered when I passed. "That's the one who got kicked out." Kids pointed. Old friends crossed the street. My name was a stain no one wanted to scrub clean. Mom, she had Tyler. She didn't need me anymore. Every Sunday, she'd bring him pancakes in bed. Every report card, every soccer game, every birthday cake, he got it all. I got silence, the kind that stretches across a dinner table like barbed wire. And Tyler. He didn't hate me. Not exactly. He just didn't see me. Not really. He'd answer my questions with shrugs or one-word replies. Cool. Sure. Yeah. I could have been a stranger renting space in their lives. One day I overheard Mom at the flower shop talking to a customer. At least I got one child right. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. I told myself I was used to it, that I didn't care. But when his graduation came up, I couldn't stay away. I wasn't there for applause. I just wanted to see him walk across that stage, just for a moment. So I sat high in the bleachers wrapped in that old Navy windbreaker that still smelled faintly of salt and disappointment. I didn't feel jealous. I felt invisible. And then the rotor blades came that unmistakable roar of military-grade hardware, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. When the chopper descended, slicing open the illusion of normal, everything changed. That wasn't pride in their eyes. It was confusion, shock, fear. My mother's hand clenched the bouquet like it might crumble. Tyler's mouth parted, but no sound came out. The agent called me commander. I didn't look back. I didn't say goodbye. Because you don't earn a title like that, in silence you survive your way into it. But the truth is, the battle didn't start when that chopper arrived. It started the day I came home. And now, 10 years later, the war wasn't over. It was coming home too. Sometimes the war you thought you left behind comes looking for you. Back in the helicopter, I sat across from Reed Carver, a federal agent whose poker face looked like it had been carved from stone. He slid a black military folder onto the seat between us. No label, no rank, just weight. The kind of folder that means two things. It's urgent and it's ugly. I opened it slowly. Satellite photos, thermal scans, route maps. One marked a shipping container cutting straight through Millstone. Another circled the Langdon shipping yard just a few miles from where I lived above Miller's Auto, breathing grease and regret. Then I saw a container labeled agricultural equipment, but fitted with thermal shielding used to house sensitive electronics like mobile EMP cores. No customs record, no scans, no oversight, Reed said. And it's moving straight through the festival zone this weekend. My stomach flipped. The Millstone River Festival was the biggest event of the year. Thousands of people packed shoulder to shoulder downtown families, kids, seniors, fireworks, funnel cake marching bands. A perfect target. You think they'll trigger it during the fireworks, I asked. Best time to mask the blast, kill power, kill comms, traffic lights down, EMS paralyzed, 2 hours of blackout long enough to vanish. I stared out the window as the town shrank behind us, the river slicing through its center like a scar. Why me? I finally asked. Because you're the only one who knows that yard and still has ties to it. You worked there before the Navy. Remember I froze? I had. My father used to take me there on Saturdays before the accident. We'd walk the loading docks, his hand steady on my shoulder, pointing out ships, names, codes. He taught me how to read manifests like stories. And then he was gone. You think it was really an accident? Reed asked quietly. I didn't answer, because deep down, I didn't know anymore. Langdon Shipping had always been one of Millstone's shining stars. The Langdon family sponsored parks, libraries, scholarships. But there were rumors, foreign buyers, unmarked trucks, falsified documents. My dad once mentioned it just once. 2 weeks later, his locker was empty and he was dead. He crashed into the river rail on a foggy night. They called it poor visibility. I never believed it. I left this life for a reason, I muttered. No, Reed said. You left the uniform, you never left the fight. His voice was steady, not dramatic, but it cut through me like cold steel. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, let the drone of the blades fade into memory. My father's voice in the garage, his warnings, his smile, the smell of cedar and engine grease. Millstone didn't just bury its secrets, it celebrated them. But this wasn't just a job. This wasn't even revenge. This was about truth, blood, and home. You'll go in quiet, Reed said, handing me a burner phone and comms unit. No backup, no headlines. Get eyes on the container. Get us something actionable. I nodded once. He met my eyes. And after that, then we bring hell. We landed just past midnight. No lights, no welcome. Just pine trees and drizzle, and the feeling that if I turned around, the whole town might disappear behind me. Your cover's in place, Reed said. People still think you're just a washed-up mechanic. Use it. I adjusted the strap on my shoulder bag and looked at the empty road ahead. "You think they remember me?" I asked. Reed paused. "They never forgot you." And then I walked into the dark. Not as a ghost, not as a disgrace, but as the woman who had come back to end what no one else could. Some answers don't want to be found. Others wait for you in the dark. Langdon Yard looked exactly like I remembered, maybe worse. Rust on every gate. Asphalt cracked like broken promises, and a silence thick enough to choke on. I parked 2 blocks away and made my way in on foot, dressed in black from head to bootlace. The kind of quiet you learn to wear like armor. I didn't use the holes in the fence. Instinct said don't. I climbed instead. Every rattle of chain link felt like a scream. I dropped low into the shadows and crept forward. The container was right where the satellite said it would be, tucked behind a loading dock, squat and silent, like a predator holding its breath. No labels, no logos, just a QR code and reinforced bolts. Whoever sealed it knew what they were doing. I scanned for vents, heat dispersion points, tamper triggers. My hands moved fast but steady, like muscle memory had never left. Click, snap, upload. Photos sent through the encrypted line. Then I heard it. A scrape. Not wind, not rat, human. Someone was moving between the crates. I didn't wait. I disappeared into the dark heart, pounding against my ribs like a drum. No footsteps followed. No voice called out. But I knew. I was being watched. By the time I got back to the apartment above Miller's Auto, my hands were slick with sweat. I locked the door, sat on the edge of my bed, boots still on. I didn't sleep. By sunrise, I needed to feel normal, so I pretended. Coffee, grease, small talk, lies. Then I did something reckless, something raw. I walked into my mother's flower shop. The bell chimed overhead. She came out from the back with soil on her apron and judgment in her eyes. "You were at Langdon Yard last night," she said, flat as concrete. "Margaret Langdon saw you, said you were snooping around like a damn thief." I swallowed the spike of rage. "I'm trying to stop something bigger than you know." She crossed her arms, eyes colder than the fridge behind her. "You always say that, and everything still ends up broken." And then Tyler stepped out from behind the register. No uniform, no smile, just a blank face and a sharper voice. Still just the same. Elena, the screw-up. I didn't speak, because maybe, for a second, he was right. That night, I drove to the one place I swore I wouldn't. Our old house. The porch sagged under the weight of memories. The lawn was half dead, just like everything we used to be. I broke in through the side door. The air smelled like cedar and ghosts. Down in the basement, I found it. Dad's trunk. Old military issue. Corners rusted, latch still working. I opened it expecting mothballs and metals. Instead, I found a sealed envelope. Yellowed. Brittle. My name on the front. "To Elena, when you're ready." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was his handwriting. Slanted, uneven, rushed. He wrote about the port, about shipments that didn't match logs, about men who came and vanished, about George Langdon and the bribe he offered to keep my father quiet. He wrote about unmarked containers, missing photos and pressure from above. Then came the line that gutted me. "If you're reading this, it means I failed, and now you can't." I read it over and over until the words blurred, until the truth burned a hole through everything I thought I'd buried. Dad didn't crash. He was silenced. He tried to protect this town, and it killed him for it. I clutched the letter to my chest. He'd tried to warn me even in death. I returned everything just as it was, locked the door behind me, left before dawn touched the roof. The air felt colder. Or maybe I just wasn't the same woman anymore, because now I had proof, and I had purpose. But I also knew one thing with a sharp kind of clarity: I couldn't do this alone. Next, the festival, the confrontation, and the moment the past finally explodes into the present. Say C to continue to Part 5. Part 5, the festival and the firestorm hook. When everyone smiles, that's when the lies run deepest. By noon, I was hunched over a dusty microfilm machine at the Millstone Public Library, where permits still lived on reels, and the building still smelled like old paper and denial. My fingers turned pages while my brain chased patterns. I wasn't just looking for Langdon. I was looking for a crack in their armor, and then I found it. A buried logistics map in the town archives. 5 other river ports in the U.S., all connected by agricultural shipping lanes, and funding from a holding company in Istanbul flagged by EU counterterrorism reports. This wasn't local corruption. This was a network, and Millstone was a test site. I folded the evidence deep into my jacket and walked out without looking back. Outside, the Founders Festival was already in full swing. Balloons, marching bands, flags, cotton candy, and lies. This town knew how to celebrate its own delusions. And at the center of it all, Margaret Langdon, standing tall with pearls and a smile like glass, giving a speech about honoring our proud shipping history. I waited until the applause faded. Then I stepped forward. "You know exactly what's in that container," I said, my voice calm but cutting, "and who you're moving it for." She turned to me, unfazed, still smiling. "You always were dramatic, Elena. I hope you find peace. Maybe a therapist. There's a VA center an hour east." But her eyes, they changed. Her pupils shrank, her jaw locked. She was scared. That told me everything. Before I could press, someone yanked my arm. Tyler. He dragged me behind a funnel cake stand, jaw clenched. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. "You just humiliated her. Do you have any idea what that does to Mom?" I didn't flinch. "I'm doing what Dad couldn't." I shoved the letter into his hand. He unfolded it, read, line by line. The world faded around us. When he looked up, something in his face cracked. "You're digging up ghosts," he whispered. "Still trying to prove you're not the screw-up we all thought you were." He shoved the letter back like it burned and stormed off. I stood there surrounded by the sounds of children laughing and brass bands blaring patriotic songs. And I had never felt more alone. But something in my chest had shifted. I wasn't walking away, not this time. And that night, when I got back to the apartment, there was a photo waiting on my doorstep. Me at the Langdon docks. No note. Just 5 words scrawled on the back, "Walk away, Commander," or else. I didn't. Because the truth is, I'd already walked too far to turn around. The next morning, Tyler showed up. No swagger, no insults, just fear. "I overheard Margaret," he said. "They're planning something tonight. During the fireworks, the power grid, the river. I don't know exactly, but it's bad." Then he handed me a photo from Mom's stash, our dad shaking hands with George Langdon, a red circle around Dad's face. "She hid this," he said. "I think he knew." By sundown, I had a plan. Sarah Vega, former SEAL and my last real ally, met me at the docks. We dressed like tech crew and boarded the Langdon yacht. Below deck, nestled in shadows and coiled wires, was the container. It pulsed with energy, ready, armed. Then he appeared. Kane. I knew him once. But whatever humanity he had left, Langdon bought and buried. He raised a weapon. Sarah lunged. They fought in silence, grit and instinct. No time to scream. I ran, dove off the boat, into black water, into memory, found the hatch under the hull, fumbled for the panel. My hands froze. Then I heard it, Elena Tyler. He tossed something through the air, our old wrench from Miller's. I caught it mid-breath, pried open the panel, shoved the disruptor inside. The countdown froze. 7 seconds left. Kane was down. Margaret was gone. But Millstone still standing. Later, Reed confirmed it all. This wasn't just Millstone. It was one of 7 sites, one of 7 messages, and the one person who stopped it. The daughter, they tried to erase. They tried to bury her, but forgot she was a seed. After the smoke cleared and the cables cooled, I stood barefoot on the deck of a boat meant to be my tomb and felt the weight of 10 years shift off my shoulders. Reed met me on the shore with a nod that said more than any medal ever could. "You did it, Commander." But it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Back in town, Mom waited for me in her flower shop. For once, she didn't look away. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just opened her palm and placed something in mine. Dad's ring. Simple, scratched, worn with love. "You finished what he couldn't," she said, voice thin but steady. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Later that night, as I packed my bag to leave again, this time by choice, I found something else. A note. Tucked inside my vest. "No matter where you go, I'm still your little brother. Tyler." I sat down on the edge of the bed, that old mechanic's cot above Miller's, the one I used to pretend was a bunk on a destroyer, and I cried. Not because I was broken, but because something had finally started to heal. The next morning, I stood on the edge of the tarmac, my uniform pressed, my boots polished, the name Elena Drew stitched across my chest, and this time, no one looked away. When I climbed aboard the chopper, I didn't glance back. I didn't need to, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't running. I was returning to the mission. But not just the one in the folder, not just the one Reed handed me in the dark. I was fighting for every girl who'd ever been called too much, too angry, too broken to lead. For the bunkmate I couldn't save in time. For my father who died telling the truth. For the little girl who grew up believing her silence was safer than her voice. And for the woman I'd become, Commander Elena Drew. Not forgotten, not erased, and damn sure not done. Share your story in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more real stories of betrayal, survival, and triumph.